Hey everybody, this is Josh McKinney. I just want to welcome you to episode 187 of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show. I have more to tell you than I can honestly put into this episode. The amount of things that I have to tell you guys about is unbelievable. But the kind of the main purpose of this episode is going to be to share a really exciting collaboration that I have going on with Imposed Will. It's only for like 2 weeks, but I just wanted to start the episode explaining to you guys what that is. We did I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show, rash guard and shorts. We did 2 different sets, and they are definitely some of the most unique rash guard and short sets that I think you've ever seen. And to me, I really just love them. They really fit my style. But you guys can check those out at imposedwill.com. I will make sure to link in the description. With that being said, I just want to make sure we started that at the top of the hour, and then kind of get into this episode and just get into a few little points before I introduce Adam, who has been on the show before. And we kind of get to dive a little deeper, talk a little longer, and it's just a different situation when you're getting to talk in person. And so obviously, I told you guys about it last week on Thursday. I am here at Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu Studios 2.0, where we really do have an amazing capability of recording podcasts and having them sound good and look good. And I mean, we're still, of course, learning our new equipment and learning this place. But we have so much more ability now. And that is kind of put me in a position where I think it's time to call a little audible on the interviews. So I've always allowed people to kind of say whatever they want on the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show. But a lot of times I edit certain things out. I keep it and I make things look very PG on a lot of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show. And with the ability to kind of be in a more intimate setting than on a Zoom meeting, where people can actually feel comfortable and people can actually feel like we are just sitting at a kitchen table and hanging out and just hanging out and just kind of talking through thoughts and being a little less structured and a little more conversational. And I want to start to experiment with some of those type of episodes and less episodes that I have a list of questions on. Not that I always do even have a ton of questions, but just more conversational episodes. And those episodes are going to be a bit more raw. There's definitely going to be more profanity in them. I'm going off of the ones that I've filmed so far. And I just wanted to make sure you guys were forewarned about that. Obviously, I'm not apologizing for that. If I was, I wouldn't share these. It wouldn't make sense to issue an apology before I shared an episode that might offend someone. And but again, these topics that we get into, you may find offensive, and that's okay. I may find some of them offensive. I'm not saying that the Josh McKinney from the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show is going to change. You're still going to. I pretty much never use any profanity on the show. I always try to keep that. And that's something that I'll probably always keep on the show. So that's not something that's going away, but I have been allowing my guests to be more themselves. And so I don't think that really shows with Adam. It's not like I'm saying this as a forewarning before I drop Adam and he's just dropping the F-bomb, but I am saying this as a forewarning of Simplifying Jiu-Jitsu 2.0, and there is going to be a change on the podcast to just how some of our interviews are done, because we have so many more interviews that we can do, and we can do them so much differently. And so learn with us, bear with us. If there's something you don't like, don't listen to it. That's totally okay. And you can send me an angry email if you want, josh@simplifyingjujitsu.com. But with that being said, I will always kind of warn you guys before that. This really isn't one of those episodes. Adam's pretty professional too, in the same way that I am, and really conscious of what his brand is and things like that. So we actually get into branding. We actually get into some simple steps to take if you wanted to start a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu business, even if it's not a Jiu-Jitsu gym, like more of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brand. We get into so many cool things in this episode. I know you guys are really going to like this one. So without further ado, after I explained to you guys that next week Kyle and Junior are going to come on the show, and it's offensive enough that I felt the need to make a statement about it this episode. So be on the lookout for that episode too. But without further ado, let me introduce to you guys once again my good friend, the owner of Imposed Will, Adam Meredith.
All right, sorry, I do.
Me too. All right, Adam, how are you doing, buddy?
Fantastic, Josh.
Good. I'm excited. I'm ready to be here, ready to get it going.
Thank you so much for having me.
For sure. First day in the new studio for us, at least with a producer, like doing it the way that I hope that the podcast gets done. And I thought it'd be really fun to have somebody that had me as my first in-person podcast. We were just talking about that with Bryce before we started. But you, with outside perspective, I don't know, I was in the episode 100s. I guess I was, I didn't make the top 100 coolest people in the St. Louis area in the jiu-jitsu community, but I was close. And it was the first time I got to be on an in-person podcast. So I thought it'd be fun to have you come on and enjoy the studio with us for the first time.
Yeah, bro, thank you for having me. Like, this is a sick setup. You're definitely like doing it right. I think anybody who like starts something and you kind of envision where you want to go, this is it. Obviously, you probably have bigger goals, but dude, this is so sick, man.
Yeah.
And I think you were in the top 100, dude. I'm pretty sure you
Was I really?
I really think you were, because I'm pretty sure you were one of, within the first year of podcasting, I feel like maybe within like 6 or 7 months we had you on the show, bro. You might have been like around 60 or something like that.
Bryce, get us on the Google machine and we'll check back.
Can Bryce Google us?
I mean, he should be able to. You have a phone, don't you, Bryce? Come on.
I could probably look it up.
Bryce is looking over at me like I don't know how to use a cell phone,
He's
man.
over here just making noises with his, well, not even noises, just movements with his fingers.
Yeah, dude.
think-
I'll tell you this. I don't like the guy. I mean, like, I need to be straight up with you.
Why are you even here, dude?
Yeah, not my favorite person. I guarantee that he doesn't have the camera angle on me while I'm roasting him either. That's part of the reason
It's a 2-shot right now.
oh, okay. It's a 2-person shot. So I am there. Okay.
You're in there somewhere.
So, as you are proving whether or not I made the list, man, I felt like it was a while. I felt like there were a lot of people on the show that I would have gone, oh man, I'm cooler than this guy. Right? Like,
right.
I should have been on before this guy. I think you had Kyle Watson before me. I mean, yeah, he was in the UFC and I haven't done anything, but I'm a pretty fun guy.
Dude, you're the most handsome guy in the city.
I don't know about that. I feel like that was a reach. I feel like you were scrolling through your phone there and you were like, yeah, what could I say about Josh? Yeah, you're handsome, man.
You do like to talk about yourself.
I do. I just gotta stay in the third person all the time. You know?
All right, I'm not going to take too much time doing this, but I feel like you were in the top 100, dude.
I don't feel like I am. I feel like you're searching.
You're probably right. I'm probably wrong. I'm often wrong. Nope, Josh McKinney.
Oh, dang it.
Number 81.
81.
81.
Top 90, man.
Come on now.
I apologize, sir. But either way,
we're here. We're doing it.
You're day one here. You're day one in this spot.
Thank you so much for having me as like one of the early guests.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I kind of, we talked a little bit before the show started. One of the main things that you and I always talk about every time we see each other, and we get to conversate more now that I am sponsored by Imposed Will, and one of the main things we always like to discuss is kind of how our jiu-jitsu businesses are going. Because like you and I always talk about, there's a lot of people that we know that love jiu-jitsu, but there aren't a lot of people that we know that love jiu-jitsu and love the business side of jiu-jitsu too. And so I always feel like we get to have fun conversations and share fun perspectives. And so I just thought a simple place to start, since we talked with podcasting, is you kind of recently made a choice to focus more on imposed will than you do your podcast, the Outside Perspective podcast. And what was kind of your thinking going into that?
Yeah. So, podcasting is obviously like, it's one of my passions. It's like I was telling you before, it's one of the things that's truly enriched my life probably the most. Just the conversations I had, the people I met, one of the things I love the most. But whenever I was just really deciding, like, what is important to me, I think there's that moment where you oftentimes you'll be by yourself. You'll kind of have this moment. You'll take a deep breath, and then you'll say to yourself, like, man, what I really want. And then whatever that is for you, like, people kind of know what their truth is. And then for me, it was like, man, I just really want to build something. And I have such a passion for business. And it was just this moment where I just had to tell myself, if I only have 100% energy in a day, if I put any of it towards anything else, then I can't put it towards this one thing. So I just had to make a choice. Like, I was kind of playing business, kind of half doing business, and then, doing the podcast. And, you kind of fool yourself in telling yourself that you're doing the things or you're doing everything that you can. But, like I said, you kind of know your truth. So I just had to sit down with myself and just had to be honest with myself. Like, what do I really want? And I was like, all right, man, I really want to build this thing. So I just kind of put the podcast on the back burner. I guess it's probably been like 5 months since I've done a podcast. So I'm actually a little nervous today. So thanks for having me. And again, dude, like, I love having conversations, but when I had to just be honest with myself and like, all right, man, I just want to build this thing and I just want to go all in. So I look at where we're at now, like, as like year 3 in business. Like after like the lockdown, like 2020, it was kind of like a moment of like resetting. And, I thought at that moment, I was getting more serious about business. Like in the beginning, whenever you're like making products, it's like a slow process.
Yeah,
it really is. Like, you get samples in, they're not right. You have to send them back. And it's just this whole like long process.
I remember you and I were at, the last time I was on your show, you were showing me the first concepts of some of the new shorts that you guys were designing.
Yeah.
And it was a long time before those actually were on sale and available to buy.
Yeah. I found that when you're in business, your kind of perception of time kind of shifts. And that like a long amount of time doesn't seem like much. Like like a year of just development to to bring a product to market is nothing. If it almost like when you're in it, it almost feels like it went by so fast, but on the outside it is a while. So in the beginning, it's like, you're just trying to get all of this stuff right. Like nobody sees any of this work that you're doing. So I was doing a lot of work, but I was still also like very much focused on the podcast. So my energy was kind of split. And then, we were growing. Like year 2, we grew quite a bit. And then, so that was last year. And then, so that's why like towards the end of the year, I was like, man, I just got to be honest with myself. Like this thing is like really working. And I need to give it everything that I have. Like I just knew in my heart, like this is what I wanted to do. So like, this is the start of year 3. From a sales perspective, dude, like we've already like beat what we did all of last year. So it's just like kind of just more proof of just like putting your energy into one thing. So it's like, yeah, if I have like 100% energy in one day, if I do anything else, then it's taken away from the thing. So I just look at it as simply as that. And I just had to put all my energy into this.
That makes perfect sense. Do you, have you regretted it at any point? Has there been any point where you're like, man, I wish I was running my podcast right now?
No, not really, dude. So I think you just have to commit, right? Anything in life, right? If whatever you really want to achieve, you really have to just block out all of the distractions and just commit to something. I'm pretty good about that. I think maybe that's probably one of the things that jiu-jitsu has for sure taught me is that, dude, like especially people, white and blue belts, right? They'll be training and they'll get a grip, or they'll grab like your head or something, and they'll just like, if they're on bottom, they'll hug you and try to hold your posture. They'll just hold on to something for entirely too long, whether it benefits them or not, right? Like you might even put yourself in a worse position because you're holding on for whatever reason. Like sometimes you just have to like let go and just let the situation develop, right? And kind of move on to what might even be perceived as like a worse position to get back to a better position, right? Like this is kind of something that you learn when you're doing jiu-jitsu. So I just apply that to life, right? So whenever I stopped fighting professionally and I decided that I am going to just go in to try to build my own thing, whether that was, at the time I was telling myself it was imposed will. And again, I was just kind of like playing business. Like I started with t-shirts, like who didn't, like most people do, right? You just kind of start with t-shirts. There's a million t-shirt companies out there. Like nobody really wants another t-shirt. And I can talk about this. Like that's kind of what got me to doing more jiu-jitsu gear as opposed to just doing t-shirts. I can talk about that kind of thought process, but, what was my point, Josh? I'm rambling.
We've just been talking about just focusing on imposed will.
Yeah, I know what I was going to say. So yeah, so like I stopped fighting, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to transition. I'm just going to put all of my energy that I put into like being a professional athlete into just being a business owner and to building a pod. And so at the time it was doing imposed will and doing the podcast. So that's where I was like kind of like playing business in my mind, because even then at that moment, I was still more focused on the podcast. I'm like, I really want to like just build this thing.
Yeah.
And that was very enriching. But so I feel like I've always done a pretty good job of just making up my mind and then just moving on. So whether it was like, I stopped fighting, because I get asked that all the time, like, dude, do you want to be in there and do you want to fight? Like, do you miss it? I'm like, no, not at all. Like even from a jiu-jitsu standpoint, I don't really have the itch to like compete a whole lot. I think it's important to kind of have that stress test, especially early on in your jiu-jitsu journey and throughout it. Even I think it's good to step in the fire, but like I don't really have like this ego like I did when I was younger. Like I'm 35 now. Like I don't really have this ego like when I was in my 20s, where like I really want to prove something. Like I need everybody to know I'm the man. Like there's nothing wrong with doing that, but like I kind of transitioned from that pretty easily. So to stop podcasting and just to go fully into business, it wasn't that hard of like a mental transition for me, because I just had to really be honest and assess like what's the situation and what do I want out of life, and then just make the choice.
So you say you're good at that, like making that, not making snap decisions, but when you are, calculating your decisions, but when it is time to make the decision, you're good at not looking back. I know that's a habit that a lot of people wish that they could develop. Do you have any thoughts on how someone could be better at that?
Oh, that's a good question.
I know it's a random question, but I just, because I know that is something that I feel like I am pretty good at too. Is just like making certain decisions and then going, okay, yeah, this is my decision, and then never second guessing that decision, just following through with it and just working that decision through.
Yeah.
And that's something that people have said, hey, how could I be better at that? That's something I don't really necessarily have a great answer for.
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? Because I mean, we all kind of experience like that fear of missing out, or I mean, I think maybe I just recognize that there's always an opportunity cost. Like if you choose one thing, that's always costing you something else, like whatever that may be. And, there's really no shortage of like opportunities in the world. There really isn't. Like things pop up all the time that could be an opportunity. And there's kind of like this philosophy that, you should always be open to opportunity, or you never know when opportunity is going to come knocking. So like always be ready. And I think that kind of puts people in the perspective of always looking for something, even whenever they have something right in front of them. And what that really does is just, it has you like jumping from one thing to the next, So I think if you do that, you're not really able to give anything the amount of time that it really takes to actually build something. So I don't know. I think I just something clicked to where I just realized that there really is no shortage, but you really, if you want to build anything, if you want to get better at jiu-jitsu, if you want to build a business, if you want to have like a strong relationship, then you have to just put all of your energy into that thing, and ignore like other people's opinions. You ignore the other opportunities. Like eventually, opportunities are really just distractions.
Yeah.
Like you just need to replace what you think as an opportunity as a distraction, because there's no shortage of that. So, I don't know. I just had this mental shift to where I just started looking at things differently. So that, again, I think if we're looking at like an actionable step, then how do you frame things? Like I go to extremes in my brain. Like whenever I used to have to like cut weight or something, I would just look at certain things as like not real food. So like if I'm going to cut out bread, because for me, like I tried to not eat refined carbohydrates like breads and pastas and stuff like that. Pasta is really easy to not eat for me, but like I do like bread, like bagels and stuff, and pizza. Dude, don't get me started.
Of course, now. Right?
Bryce,
this order us a pizza while you're Googling, okay?
We're in America, right? Like pizza and burgers. So yeah, no. But I'm really good at like whenever it was just, whether I just needed to make weight or I'm like, all right, man, I just need to get in better shape or whatever, for whatever reason, I would just tell myself like, that's not real food. And then like, and this is real food. And I just draw these hard lines in my brain, on certain things. And that just kind of helps me make that choice. That
makes sense.
If that makes sense.
I think too, it sounds like both analogies, you had a very, very clear, or you have a very clear end goal, in place you're trying to be.
Yeah.
And, like that being your, with and post. When we can kind of talk about some of the, we've talked about this on podcasts before. I don't know if on your show or mine, but kind of some end goal hopes of Imposed Will and the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. So we can kind of maybe visit that towards the end.
Yeah.
But it seems like you have a very clear, just focus on what you want Imposed Will to be.
Yeah.
And that's like, kind of for me relating to that, is me choosing that sponsorship with Imposed Will. I had, and you and I had even talked about it before, like I had a lot of different offers for different sponsorships just as the show has grown, and, for jiu-jitsu gear, and, they didn't fit my end goal. None of them were more than okay, well, I could have a sponsorship for a year and it could feel really cool. But then when you asked me, and I had for years kind of worked side by side with you in podcasting and just seeing your focus on your brand and your, and Imposed Will, it made me go, oh, there's something there. That's going to the place that I hope to go to. And so like I said, when you sent me that message, it wasn't even a question for me. I was just like, oh yeah, finally he asked, like that'll be perfect. And then, I said yes and didn't think twice about it, because it showed me, I knew exactly where you were wanting to go. And I'm like, I want to be in the same place. So it fit my end goal. And so it seems like for you, a lot of those things with cutting weight, with anything, you knew what your end goal was. And you said, okay, well, I'll do the things that I need to get there.
Yeah, dude, we've been so fortunate just to have the belief of like athletes like you, and yeah, dude, I definitely have a vision of like where I want to go, and I'm trying to get better at like communicating that vision and like painting that picture for others to see. It's hard, especially because like for me, this is like a long-term thing. It's like many decades how I see this whole thing unfolding. Things take time to develop.
Of course.
And so yeah, I'm like just so honored that you even like believe in the vision and can kind of see what we're trying to build. So I've been very lucky in that regard.
Might as well now. Let's dig a little deeper into the vision.
Sure.
What is, let's say, for you as just an individual in your family, like what is your hope to get out of Imposed Will? What are you hoping to get out of Imposed Will? Let's say in 10 years from today, what would you have hoped to have gotten out of it?
Man, dude, so ultimately, dude, for me, I realized like I'm not really able to work for anybody like
Yeah.
very early on. You know, like
Yeah.
even as a kid, I was very like entrepreneurial, knocking on doors to cut grass, shovel snow. Dude, we had to sell stuff in fundraisers in school. Like I used to go door to door to sell, like savers cards and different things. So I've always been very entrepreneurial.
What would you get when you in those fundraisers when you were trying to go door to door and selling? Like, what did you get prizes if you sold a certain amount of things?
So at that point, it was, so we had those like in like elementary school, right? But like these ones that I'm talking about were more for like sports. And we didn't get anything other than we were just supposed to do it.
Okay.
Although now looking back on it, I did get the experience of actually like having to go sell this thing because like my parents didn't take my fundraiser stuff to work to go sell. So I had to like go sell it. And so now looking back on it, it was actually like a blessing in disguise to actually have to go do that.
Yeah, that makes makes sense.
So it's like I've always been very entrepreneurial, and then I tried to walk the path of go like I got my degree, I got my master's, I was working at a 9 to 5. I got fired from that because of cannabis. What I really think it was is because I just got a raise and I asked for an additional raise because I was doing so well. And they gave it to me. And then I think they just decided to drug test me because of that. So, dude, these things happen though. It's like one of those things where the universe was like working for me. I really believe that. Like, I think it just kind of sent me down this, like I was on one trajectory and it wasn't really fulfilling. It was at that time I was thinking like, oh man, I would like to start a podcast. And Posed Will has kind of been one of these things where I started the brand in 2009 as a fighter, and it was like a fight wear line thing. And again, I started it with just selling t-shirts, and you try to like do some things. And I learned a lot because this was in 2009, 2010. Like I started the brand in 2009. I graduated with my undergrad in 2010. And then I started to try to build the brand. Like I reached out to a manufacturer in China, got samples. At that time, they had such high minimums. I wasn't able to do. So I tried to like figure out some other ways. And then that's also whenever I was fighting. So it was always kind of like just kind of playing business, kind of half-heart doing business. But then, oh fuck, I'm losing my train of thought, Josh.
It's okay. I think that just on our kind of just actually to change the subject on that just a little bit, I really think that idea of kind of having that focus and focusing on Imposed Will for a while is what put me on the brand, right?
Yeah.
And I really think that there's something to seeing that people are just attracted to. And I really notice a huge, at least for me, for my guys, just a huge excitement from my whole team.
Yeah.
Just because somebody else is excited, like somebody cares enough about, well, this is not that this episode should be a whole Imposed Will episode. I'm trying to keep that from being, but the truth is that's why I really wanted to have you on the show, because me and my students have been really excited. Just Mop was in here an hour ago, and we were talking. I was showing him the new super secret design, the new super secret I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show collaboration.
Yeah.
And he was saying, yeah, dude, have you tried on the shorts? He's like, the shorts are awesome. And he's like, and the rash guards, they're my favorite rash guards. And he's like, the gis that they have, they got custom gis, which isn't part of the super secret collaboration right now. But if people were to buy the rash guards, it would just make sense to do gis next,
sense.
Yeah. And he was just saying, man, I notice how much I like the rash guards. And for me, getting to just peek behind the curtain, even for 5 minutes a couple of years ago, and seeing how you were explaining to me, the rash guards need to be this. And you were showing me them, and I'm like, dude, they look nice. And you're like, no, they suck. They should be here, and they should be here. And it was making me go, oh, okay, well, that's kind of interesting. That makes me excited. And then I really think that just for a lot of my students, they saw how excited I was about it. And they're like, man, you've been sponsored by all kinds of big brands.
You really have.
And you've always been like, yeah, these suck, man. Like, these aren't very good.
Yeah.
And they were just like, why are you excited about this? And I think it's good. I think somebody actually cares and they're doing something different than just putting a different logo on the same rash guard as everybody else. And there's something contagious about that resolve,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it's been a huge learning lesson. And I got my train of thought back. and I mean, what you said, it actually leads me right into it. Like, yeah, dude, it's been a huge process. Like, I've learned a ton. And I made a lot of those early mistakes, like way back when. And it's always kind of been this brand that's always been with me. But again, it wasn't really like a business. Like, we would do T-shirts, like a lot of people do. You just sell T-shirts. But then when you saw that, right, you kind of saw me actually like trying to actually make products, right? Like I came to a decision to where it's like, all right, there's no shortage of T-shirt brands. And like, I've done that thing. And now, as opposed to like back in 2010, whenever I first started reaching out to manufacturers, it's a lot easier now. The world has gotten significantly smaller.
It really has.
Right? And whether it's for shipping, I mean, you can go to, there's a few different sites. I usually go to like Alibaba to try to figure out who I can reach out to from a supplier standpoint. And you just reach out to these people, just kind of cold call them, if you will. And you start the process, right? I mean, you tell them what you want, they'll send you a sample. And, for me, I just realized like I want to start making like actual products because, again, it's so hard to sell T-shirts. Like we're finally at a point where people are like asking for apparel, but we had to work to get there. And you got to see the early days, right? Where it's like, oh man, like this is what we have. Like, no, it's not right. And through that and through the feedback that we've gotten, I mean, the support from your guys has just been like unbelievable.
For sure.
And we've gotten such good feedback on like just the fit and the quality that, like in the beginning, like the market never lies.
Yeah.
It doesn't, right? So you're never really sure how people are going to respond to your stuff, and you're not really sure what the price thing's at, and you have to make those decisions if you are going into business. And we've gotten such good feedback from people that like you start gaining confidence. Like I really love this this saying or quote or whatever from Andy Frisella, who owns First Form here in St. Louis, where he says like the work comes before the belief, right? Like you do the work and then you start gaining belief. So it's like I put in all this work and like in designing all of this, like everything's cut and sew, right? Like like I sent them the measurements, I told them like how I want this to fit, and then like we tested the quality of the fabrics and all the things. And like, you don't know how people are going to respond, but like now it's like you kind of gain this confidence, like where I've gained confidence that if I think something is good quality, that it is good quality.
Yeah.
And you only gain that through like actually doing. So yeah, man, it's just been quite this process, right? Cause like I said, I've never really been one to want to work for other people. I kind of have this issue with people telling me what to do. I kind of have this issue of also like buying in, where like whenever I was working at like a big company, it was a PBM like in healthcare, and like I'm at this corporate job, and I'm like, God, I don't really care about any of this stuff. Like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
Like I'll do it. You guys are paying me bills, like you're paying my bills, like I have benefits, all the stuff, but I wasn't really happy, right? So then when I got fired, it was one of those things that truly happened for me, and they kind of just sent me on this trajectory of like, all right, I got to build my own thing, right? So I did try the T-shirt thing again. That's why I said like I played business for so long, because you just kind of do what you know, and then you see what other people are doing, and you're trying to figure it out. And then that's why like my time was split doing podcasting and trying to do Impose Will, but more focused on podcasting. And then you just kind of just walk the path, and then something just clicked, right? It's like, all right, this is what you need to focus on. Let's make some real products. Let's serve the community that's given so much to me. Like, I mean, I'm a lifelong grappler. I started wrestling when I was 14 years old, and then that led me into fighting, which led me into jiu-jitsu, which is what I do now, right? So I really wanted to serve that community first because, I'm a part of that community. I want to make things that I want to wear that I feel like is good quality. And I want to serve like the community that means the most to me. So we're going to grow and expand, from this. But, right now it's all focused on jiu-jitsu.
What is up, guys? Josh McKinney here. and
Adam Meredith.
And we are here on the Home Shopping Network to tell you about this really exciting thing that we have going on right now, and that is the Imposed Will I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show no-gi collaboration.
This collaboration is the collaboration that everybody's been waiting for, Josh.
They've been talking about it for years, you know? Even before they started talking about it before we were even born, I heard.
That's what I heard as well.
Yeah, that's pretty excessive.
That's the word on the street.
Maybe they didn't do that. But me and Adam were just kind of placing our bets right now because this collaboration, this no-gi collab, has two different color options. And honestly, if we're being totally honest, everyone's just going to get both. Just going to get both shorts, both rash guards, so they can have the full I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show set. But there are going to be some people that just choose one, right?
Right.
And so the question is, you really think that people are going to go with the purple and gold?
Well, the real question is, how much regret are they going to feel when they only go with one? Which one that they will go with? I think it will be the purple and gold, Josh.
I'm leaning, knowing my listener, I'm just guessing more people will go black and green. You will catch me in the purple and gold next time I'm competing no-gi. You know, there's no doubt. Unless, of course, it's an IBJJF, then I'm probably out of luck on that one.
Your hands are tied.
I don't think I can do the the purple and gold for an IBJJF. I don't think they would be down for that.
They should. We need to make some real changes in IBJJF. This is where we're starting right now with this commercial. IBJJF, we need to allow better colorways. It's not representative enough. It's not maybe you identify as a purple belt and you want to wear the sick purple and gold when you're competing in adult black belt division.
Adam, you got political on me, man. Okay, guys, the link for this new set, we're only doing a 2-week pre-sale. Are we doing a 2-week pre-sale?
2-week pre-sale. You got to act fast.
A 2-week pre-sale. You have to act fast. The link is in your description. If you're watching on video, I'm sure it is also on your screen.
It should be.
That was it. That was perfect.
Sorry, I got wild.
That was... Do you think, man, I have like 3 questions. We'll go at the end if you would. I think it'd be fun if we did just a few steps if you were creating a jiu-jitsu business, because you mentioned Alibaba, and I think that like Alibaba is something like, not that I mention this every single episode on this podcast, but something like ChatGPT that not everybody knows about, but the people that do are so excited about it. And when somebody finds out about it, they're like, wait, what? And they don't even understand that something like that exists. So I think like getting to the end and just giving a few actionable steps if somebody wanted to create a jiu-jitsu brand or jiu-jitsu business, I think might be fun. So we might get back to that. But just kind of off of what you were saying, when you look at product design, because this is just something that interests me.
Yeah.
What makes you decide, okay, I need to, let's say specifically for the rash guards, I need to put this like thick waistband on it. Are you just, what makes you go, this is something that people will actually care about and people will actually buy?
Dude, really just trial and error.
Really?
And then just trusting my gut. I found at least for me, if somebody's gonna start a business and you're the driving force, like you have the vision behind whatever you're building, I mean, you just gotta learn to trust your gut. And sometimes it's like, you're really nervous about something and you need to lean into that. It's not always about trusting your gut. It's like, oh man, I feel really good. Sometimes it's like, man, why am I nervous about this? And then taking an honest assessment. It's like, all right, like this is a necessary risk. Like I need to lean into this, but also if from just a design standpoint, dude, it's really just, I was like, man, do I like it? Yeah. I'm like, oh, dude, I think that's sick. Like I'm a pretty creative person. I constantly think about this. I've at this stage of the game, since I first started designing and trying to make clothes. I mean, dude, the first one I made was in like 2010. So I mean, it's like 13 years of trial and error, like doing this and figure out what's good quality, what's a good fit, what looks good. Like it's just been trial and error, really. I mean, you just kind of got to do it, mess up, and like the thick elastic on the rash guards, for example. I actually just decided that I like those the best.
Yeah.
Like it's so hit and miss. Some people like them, some people don't. But for me, I think they're just better.
Dude, is somebody
they're just better.
Is somebody whose torso and hips are built like a rectangle. Nothing is worse than rash guards because they just ride up my stomach on. So every jiu-jitsu picture of nogi, it's why I didn't do nogi for so long. Every picture is me in closed guard, a dude with his hands on my bare stomach, and it's just like it looks like I'm wearing like a halter top for a rash guard, and so that got Bryce to laugh. He smiled at halter top on that. He was like, "Man, that's not the right thing, Josh. You were wrong on that." But anyway. But just when I put those on and I was like, oh, this isn't riding up anymore. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm glad.
Yeah.
And that makes such a simple thing that makes you go, or like that you put so much work into. But that was kind of where I was going next, was you talked about trial and error, and you say, okay, this is like my trial and error, and this is just more of an observation than anything. But then you also talk about like how you were playing business. To me, that playing business was you experiencing enough trial and error until your skills were developed enough to say, okay, now I know for sure that I can commit to doing this and to pursuing this, because you weren't going into imposed will and saying, okay, I have no data to support that this should be my main focus. You had data, and you had, a lot of information that told you that you could make that decision. Was that true?
At what point?
Like just recently,
recently?
When we talk about because you've kind of, it sounds like to me, you sound like you were getting completely serious about imposed will when you kind of started to transition from the podcast to imposed will, right?
Yeah. So, when I say playing business, what I mean by that is like, I would do things like order business cards, bro. I don't have any business cards now. I don't I'm like, oh, dude, I'm ordering these business cards. Like, yeah, I'm in business now, like for sure, dude. Like, I'm gonna give out all these business cards. I give out 0 business cards, dude. Like stuff like that, like the things you think you need to do, and you start like overthinking things, and like it was a huge like learning trial and error process. But I think when I say that, like it was a lot of just like overthinking it.
Yeah.
And especially in the early years where I was very much focused on like being a fighter and like being a professional athlete, it was just kind of like a brand that was with me. It was definitely not like a business. And then, again, like post lockdown, like I was like, all right, man, let me make this, like, let me seriously do this. And then a lot of it was like product development in the beginning, trying to figure that out. But yeah, once I kind of became apparent to me that like podcasting wasn't the thing for me, like I started this brand came to me so long ago, and I'm just so stubborn, right? I can't let it die, really. But I just always feel like there's something there. I just feel like people resonate with it. I've had some very like successful entrepreneur friends, like when they first heard the brand, like the way I saw like their eyes light up, like I just knew I had something there with like the branding and just the messaging, and there's just, I think it really relates to people. And I don't know if some of it's just timing, like if maybe just where I am in my life, or just the culture. There is a huge shift in like a focus. There's a focus with like mental health, and I think our brand kind of speaks to that. So I don't know if there's just like a number of things kind of in play to where people are just ready to kind of like receive the message that we're ready to put out, and just my own experiences and everything kind of all like coming together now. And it's just, I don't know, man, it's just, everything just felt right, where it's like, all right, man, like I do love podcasting, but it just felt like this is what I really want to do and need to be doing. Because like you asked me like what I want out of this in like 10 years, right? So it's less about like what, ultimately, of course, I had this huge goal of like I want to make a ton of money, like, and I want to,
as you should,
dude. I really do,
as you should.
And like I mean, dude, there's people that like I want to take care of. I want to, just build my own thing that can support my family and provide like a life kind of above anything that I've ever had before. But now what really drives me, what kind of keeps me rooted is, dude, I just ultimately want to create jobs and like leave like a real big impact like on this community in the area that we're at, and like just make something that's like just like real. Like there's a lot of businesses out there that, or not even businesses, there's just a lot of people out there who are just like, I don't know, like selling like snake oils, or they're just everyone's a coach these days.
Yep.
And
Everybody's got a freaking podcast nowadays, man.
well, it's like, it's a tough business for content to be your business. It's an insatiable monster. And I realized for me, as much as I enjoyed doing podcasts, the way I was doing them, like it was going to be tough to try to turn that into a business without having like a clear niche, like you're speaking to like the jiu-jitsu community. So it's like, it's very focused, and it's like, there's a clear path for like growth there. So like for me, I just had to be honest with myself. I was like, I want to build this business, and I want to like really create something that's going to like really impact, and then just create jobs, dude. Like that's, I really think there's a huge shift where people are like realizing that, like I'm a little bit older than you, but not like a ton. Like, but like
How old are you?
35.
Oh my gosh, you're so much older than me, dude. I'm only 29. I'm a spring chicken, man.
You're right.
I'm a spring chicken. I
know,
have
dude.
so much life ahead of me.
Fucking grandpa.
Yeah,
here, bro.
man. I didn't even know that guys your age knew about podcasting.
I know,
Man,
it's so weird, right? But it's like, dude, when we were growing up, I think it was often preached that you're supposed to just like, you graduate and you go get this 9 to 5 and you go get a degree. And it was kind of like looked down upon if you went to trade school, or if you didn't go to college or whatnot. So like I kind of bought that hook, line, and sinker, and like I went and did those things. And like now I just realized, like, dude, there's so many opportunities for people. Like you don't need degrees, and I think there's just so much value to like putting in like a hard day's work, and like and you feel accomplished, and especially like when you're making things. So I really want to, like create jobs for people where they can go to work and they can be proud of what they're doing, and they're going to like make things. Like we're going to like cut and sew and like manufacture, like help bring manufacturing back to America, and like make things, and people can be proud of what they're doing, and like teach people skills. So not where you have to like go get a degree or do these things. So I just had this huge vision for like what we can do and how we can do it. But it's going to take a long time to get there.
of course, that's the weird thing about, I don't know, whether you call it a brand, you call it a project, a baby, a whatever, a business, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
But when you generally, like we were talking about in the beginning, we start with these big visions of what we want for us and our family. And then we start to build this brand, this vehicle to get us there. And what's interesting is the people that end up successful tend to be the ones that love the vehicle and focus on the vehicle to get them there, and not just on where they're trying to get to, at that end point. And I just, I just see that in, even in my life and in the podcast and stuff like that. But what's also really interesting is you were talking, and this is kind of where I wanted to transition the podcast in a second. Anyway, I'm sure we'll get there. But you were talking about just how it was sold to us that you had to go to college, and that was the way. And I just remember being 15, 16, 17, and going through high school, and there just being this immense pressure on you need to decide where you're going to college. And I had this different experience than anybody else. I had real world experience where I said, hey, I have a bunch of friends that are 30 because I train jiu-jitsu, and they say, hey, I don't work in the profession that I was supposed to, but I'm still paying the student loans. And they would all say, you're good at jiu-jitsu, just do jiu-jitsu. And I got this advice from this group of guys, and like a lot of them wish that they would have had that advice too. And I just see how even if I were to fallen out of love with jiu-jitsu and I would have just gotten that lesson of, hey, just don't, you don't have to, you don't have a thing that you're wanting to do. Don't just go to go. And especially if you can go to go if it's on somebody else's dime, but don't just go to go on your dime. Right.
Yeah.
And, just having that, having those lessons that you learn in the jiu-jitsu space, whether somebody directly telling you or you just learn through osmosis by being there, I think is one of the most fun parts of jiu-jitsu that isn't actually the jiu-jitsu themselves. But that being a long transition to this, you have been getting, because of the brand, to go and visit all kinds of different schools and to just kind of to spread the imposed will gospel and to try to get to train at all these different places too. Are there any things that you've picked up just, you've gotten to do a lot of Midwest stuff, just about the Midwest jiu-jitsu scene, any specific schools, anything worth noting?
Yeah, anytime anybody asks me like where I train at, that's a very common question. Like, where do you train at? I'm like, man, I'm just so much more of a nomad these days, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm very fortunate that I try to just play Switzerland, right? Like jiu-jitsu can kind of be very dogmatic or kind of have like that old school mentality of where like it's like gym, like every gym's a different gang or something. Nobody wants to like be cool with each other. So I'm pretty fortunate to where I think we're in a place to where there's a lot more like open-mindedness in the community. So yeah, I get to like bounce around and train at different places. It's really cool. And yeah, I think it's every gym's just a little different, some gyms you'll go to and they'll be very like competition focused. So they'll do more things like, spider guard or lasso, or they'll go in, they'll go inverted on you, or, start attacking legs and different things. Or, you'll go to a gym that is maybe more wrestling focused or MMA focused, and, maybe they won't be the most technical, but they'll go a little bit harder. The intensity that they'll hit things with is just
and probably value top so much more too.
Yeah, and dude, honestly, and also whether or not you're going with a straight jiu-jitsu guy versus an MMA guy, like an MMA guy or girl, like they won't stop. They don't rest, they don't stop, because for them being on bottom is you're really fighting for your life in that kind of scenario. I mean, obviously it's a sport, but you kind of have to have that mentality. Like, dude, I'm losing. You could take some serious damage on bottom when people can, elbow you and punch you and stuff like that. So you don't want to be there. And when you roll with those people, like they don't stop. They just keep moving. They keep fighting. They're scrambling. Like they don't ever let you'll put them in some pretty bad spots and they just won't stop. So you'll see that. Or you go to some gyms and they're better at grip fighting, than others. So it's just very interesting to kind of see kind of what gym is where. And for me, I kind of get a true perspective of like which gyms are better than others.
Yeah, that's really cool that you get to like, that's the fun thing about jiu-jitsu too. One of the million fun things about jiu-jitsu is you do get to learn so much about people when you get to train with them.
Yeah, you learn a lot about a person just rolling with them.
You can, like, one of my friends always says, like, you can roll with somebody and just be like, oh my gosh, I just found my new best friend. Like, you just have the perfect round with them. Yeah. And you may have, eventually it may have gotten really hard and intense, but it still just be a really fun, enjoyable round. And then you could roll with somebody who's a really nice person and you're like, I freaking hate this guy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to deal with this guy ever again, and just because of how they roll.
Right. Yeah. I'm especially now, I'm more particular about who I roll with, and it's kind of a catch-22 in that if I'm dropping in at gyms, if people don't know you, then they will go a little bit harder with you.
And you're a black belt,
there's that too.
Yeah. And
then also it's like, what belt are they? Because everybody kind of walks this journey in jiu-jitsu where like we all know white belts are dangerous, like because they just don't. There was this quote, I'm gonna butcher it, but it was something like the amateur is more dangerous than the professional.
Yeah.
Or something.
That I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, right. So it was something to that nature, but yeah, like white belts are dangerous. So it's like I try not to roll with white belts unless I know them. But when you're dropping in places, most white belts you can kind of be in their head a little bit, before they roll with you. So you can tend to deal with most white belts. Blue belts are kind of dangerous because, you know, they're blue belts and they want to kind of prove something a little bit. It's kind of hit and miss with those. But like, in my opinion, from like a visitor perspective, as a black belt, like purple belts are probably the most dangerous.
Yeah.
Because they're very confident. They're super confident in their game. And they're usually very competitive, right? Like they have something to kind of prove, so they want to win. So they're kind of more dangerous than everybody because you can't take them lightly. Like you kind of can, but you can't, right? Because you might get hurt or you just might get a little sloppy into a situation. So you got to be on point with your stuff with rolling with those guys or girls.
Yep.
Like for real. But so it's, but you know, once you start rolling with like other browns and purple or browns and blacks, like everyone's usually pretty cool.
That's
so, but every kind of walks that journey. Purple belts are definitely the most dangerous.
I would agree with that, man. I've had, you know, different experiences where I'm like, oh man, I can tell that this guy, this black belt brought his best purple belt in to fight me or like into this open mat or whatever. And I can just see the vibe of everybody. Everybody's looking in the room at like, yeah, Josh is going to fight that guy. And I'm like, oh man, I am. Darn it.
Dude.
Oh no.
Dude, it's humbling, right? Like I'm to the point now where, especially if I'm rolling a lot, like I can only get in such good shape and without like really making that switch to like really focusing on kind of being in that good of shape. So it's like, you start taking some L's and rolls and stuff like that because like you're just not because dude, it's like, man, I can only try to win so much. For me, it's like, man, I could try to win this. This is going to be really, really hard, or you can just. So there's kind of like this balance of like, as I'm getting, again, I'm not like super old, but like it's like, fuck, dude, like I'm not a 24-year-old purple belt who wants to win.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, I'll let you win some. Like you'll kind of concede some positions or different things. So it's like you kind of play with your mind a little bit, where it's like, all right, listen. You're still good. It's okay. Like, but then you don't want to like lose respect because then you're like, oh, do they think? Because I know whenever I was a purple belt, I'd be like, this black belt sucks. I should be a brown belt right now.
Yeah, I do.
Like,
I agree.
That's what I'm telling myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just smoked this black belt. They suck. I should be. What's going on here? Like those are the kind of like things that you tell yourself. So it's kind of a mind game.
To be fair with me, Kyle kind of enjoyed me beating up his black belt friends.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah, Kyle was like, oh yeah, you should go do a round with Josh.
We'll do that.
And then Kyle would be like, hey Josh, you should do a round with my buddy. You know, who's really got a mouth on him. You should do a round with my buddy. I'm like, okay, sounds good, Kyle.
Sick boy.
Yep, sounds good, Kyle. And then Kyle, they'd come off the mat, and Kyle would be like, yeah, Josh is just like one of my random guys. I mean, he's not, he's pretty middle of the road for my purple belts,
Dude. Yeah, it's a weird place to be in. Like coming from a guy who was, at one point where it's like a lot of like your identity is like wrapped up in your ability to like physically perform as a fighter and jiu-jitsu guy, like a competitor. Like it feels good to be the man.
Oh yeah.
Right? Dude, it feels good when you win. And to have to like concede that a little bit in roles and stuff, it's like, all right, it's just not that important.
You literally have to, the next phase of your life, it seems like to me that you have to become a different person, because that competitive drive, and it's something that you literally have to work on to be in that performance mode and to be in that I have to perform mode and that belief system that you have to have.
Yeah.
And I can see, like, as somebody who's still trying to be there, I can definitely see like, oh, this isn't sustainable for the rest of my life. It just isn't. It's not a good call.
Well, where like you're getting a scramble position and there's a moment where it's like, how hard do you want to fight to win this scramble? And then like that's where I think that's kind of like the deciding moment, because there's been times where I'm going with you and there's a certain position I'm like, all right, I can push a little bit harder here to try to win this, but I'm like, all right, well, Josh is really pushing. Like, he wants to win this. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll let you, like, not like let you win, but you just like make the choice where it's like, I don't want it as bad as you want it. So it's like, all right, well, let me go to the next thing.
You concede that fight and you go, okay, I'll fight this fight.
Yeah, like I don't want that fight.
Yep.
Right? It's just like, that's where the mental part is, right? Like that's whenever I decided to stop fighting, because my last two fights, physically I was better than I'd ever been. Weight cut was perfect. Everything was good. I was saying all the right things. But whenever, and this happens in business, this really happens anywhere in life. Like you hit a hard moment, like you're in the fire, you're in the chaos, and you have to be honest with yourself again. Like, and for me in those last 2 fights, I got in these really hard moments, and I just told myself, like, I don't want this. Like, like, oh, I don't have to be here. I don't want this. So like I tapped out, and the very last fight, the guy took my back and he flattened me out, and he like TKO'd me. Like, not hard shots. He was a veteran. He was a good dude. He didn't like hit me super hard, but like he did what he needed to do to stop the fight. And that was a fight I was winning up until like the last like 30 seconds. So it was like I had to be honest with myself, like, oh, dude, I just don't want that. So like in roles, it's like it's like, oh, dude, I don't want those problems, dude. Like, I don't want those problems. So it's like you just concede.
Oh man, I can't wait to do that.
But you don't recover the same. I can't, dude. I'm only a few years off from taking steroids.
Yeah, I get that, dude. I know.
To put it simply,
I know. So yeah, I know a lot of people that are like, it's just, this is a really hard sport on your body. You know, man, competing at adult and being one of the few guys that isn't on steroids, it really is a different sport for me.
Oh, dude.
I know, like, when I talk to other athletes that are like my buddies that are on, and I just talk about what a match is like, and I'm like, it's a completely different experience out there for me. It's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
I am thinking about so many other things that you guys just don't have to think about in the middle of the match, because when you go out of bounds and you're walking in bounds, you're recovered as if you woke up in the morning by the time you get there.
Dude.
And I'm like trying, my fingers aren't working to tie my belt.
Dude, that's a terrible place to be in.
And it's like, okay, well, I have to learn how to pace completely differently. And it literally, again, I'm going into a sport that I know that people are going to be on. So I don't complain about it. It's just part of the sport, right? Yeah. And so, like, I don't worry about it in that sense, but in the sense of like how I have to think about the art, it's just different. And I'm sure as I age at the other divisions, it's not like when you enter masters that the drug use at the highest levels, that the drug use is a whole lot different,
right?
Than it is.
Especially Masters 1. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I'll probably start like hormone replacement like early 40s, maybe late 30s.
Yeah.
In the next like 4 years, maybe. Because dude, the recovery really is slower. It's you hear it, but it's insane. It's so insane, and I don't know if it's just because like we're young in life. Like I'm not an old guy. Mm-hmm. However, I have been doing like combat sports. If I consider wrestling, I mean 22 years.
That's a long time.
It's like a lot of like miles on my body, and then fighting when like I was at the gym earlier. And these guys were sparring. And I'm like, oh my gosh, just taking those kicks and those knees and those punches. I have no desire to do that. It just looks like it just hurts your body, because your body has to get conditioned to take that kind of punishment. Mm-hmm. But there's a cost to that though, right? Like, you are taking damage, and it just kind of wears on your body over time. So it's like, man, a lot of miles on this car. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's like, man, that recovery is just not the same.
So is there anything you worry about side effect wise?
For hormone replacement? No, because the way I look at it, as long as you're doing it, at a certain stage in life, like, you're not doing it too early, or, the problem is, especially with like young guys who are like on steroids, right? They're on anabolics and stuff. It doesn't make any sense, because your body is like a walking steroid at that point. Like, you're producing all your hormones optimally. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, in your late teens, early 20s, you're optimal with all your with that. Like, that's why you can stay out late.
Some of those guys go prime optimal.
They really do, bro. Yeah, right. I mean, they're training like crazy. But then you got certain guys, and where they put on all this weight, and then they start getting injured all the time, right? Because they outgrew their frame. Like, you outgrew your ligaments and your joints. You're not able to maintain that, right? You start getting knee injuries constantly or something. Like, if somebody is constantly injury riddled, they're probably on something. Not, you never know. Like, it could be a number of things, but you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You get my point, right? Yeah. So if you don't need to do it when you're that young. I think when you're doing it later in life, like, you're I can't remember at what age and I think it's, let's just say it's like at 40. At that age, you start decreasing your natural testosterone production gradually every year anyway. So I just look at it as just like just optimal health and maintenance. You're just keeping your levels at an ideal place. And fortunately, we live in a society and we have enough science to where it's actually very affordable and attainable for a lot of people anyway, where you can go and get blood work done and figure out what your levels are and do it in like a safe manner.
Do you know what your levels are?
No, I need to get them tested. I should be better about getting regular blood work. I need to start taking that seriously.
Yeah. What if I told you that with proper sleep, diet, and exercise, my 63-year-old father is generally, there have been times recently that he's been tested at like 900 for his like free testosterone.
Is that good?
That's super good.
I don't know what the scale is.
It's obnoxiously good.
That's
it's like,
legit.
if you were 30, they would, and you came in, they would be like, oh yeah, you don't need TRT.
Yeah.
You're good. And so, yeah, he, that's always a guy that I always see with when it comes to anything health related, especially longevity related.
Yeah, he's a prime example. He walks the walk.
He really does.
Yeah. Dude, and that should always be looked at first, right? Like, are you getting enough sleep? You know, like, are you eating well? And sleep is so important. I'm such a stickler on sleep. Dude, I'm all about creating a sleep environment. Like, there's no light in there. There's no TVs in the bedrooms because that like emits like electromagnetic frequency. So there's none of that. You know, we keep a certain temperature.
What temperature?
I usually put the thermostat on 66 at night.
Ooh, good call. That's
and then we got blackout curtains and dude, so like there's no light in there. There's the temperature. I use a noise machine. Just like, dude, I'm very there's like a ritual like before going to bed. Like I don't mess with sleep, bro.
I like it, man. I don't either. I'm very similar. I notice performance wise, especially like with podcasting stuff and then jiu-jitsu performance, I notice a huge difference in how I'm sleeping, how I'm performing, and and how hard it is for me to perform. It's weird. The more tired you are, the more you have to work to perform. Yeah. And so then that in turn makes you more tired. Yeah. And so that's such a tough battle. As we kind of get to the end, I wanted to make sure that I mentioned it in the middle, that we just gave some like very simple, actionable steps for somebody that, we really just kind of talked on this episode with the goal of kind of talking about the brand of Imposed Will. Yeah. And I think that there are people that either have their own brand that they've already made and they just don't have any idea of what to do with it. I get messaged and followed by all kinds of different new jiu-jitsu apparel companies and just different jiu-jitsu companies now. And I think some people would just love some really simple, actionable steps. So if you were to like have a concept of some type of brand, and let's not just make it clothing in the jiu-jitsu world, but just something that expresses your passion for jiu-jitsu and ties into some need that you think that there is in the jiu-jitsu community. Where would be a good place to start maybe with that if you were looking for something like that?
I don't know if I understood your question, dude.
Okay, sorry. I was probably trying to get you to be too general. Let's start with this. Where, if you were restarting Imposed Will as a jiu-jitsu clothing company, you're restarting from today, where would be some of the places that you would start? What would be the first things you would start with?
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah. So if you're like, where would you start? Yeah. So, I mean, like outside of like the obvious things of like just kind of having a name.
Even the obvious things. Yeah. Give me some just bullet points, just because to us, they're obvious, but maybe to somebody with no other experience, it's not as obvious.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, man, I think it's kind of like a catch-22 in that you don't ever want to get like hung up too much about certain things, because you can overthink it and then never get started. So
that's really good advice to start with.
Kind of that paralysis by analysis. So kind of take things with a grain of salt, but like, develop, a name, a logo, depending on where you're at. You can kind of get in the weeds of things of like, very simply, it's very easy, at least in Missouri, to have an LLC. You can file an LLC, but get your social medias up And then I think in the beginning, whatever it is that you're doing, you can start kind of getting in touch with your audience by like creating content. I think content is very valuable. It's a very good thing to have. And work within whatever constraints that you have, whether it's your phone. Like, just get started. Like, don't overthink it, but like maybe start creating content, start educating people, start giving value to people. So that way, whenever you do decide to start selling products, whether that's t-shirts or whatever the case may be, like just start with an idea. We'll just use t-shirts because it is easy. There's local print shops you can go to. There's so many drop shipping places now that you could have if you decided to have just a website. It's easier than it's ever been because you can literally just have social media. You can go to like Shopify. You can create an account there. They have very simple templates that is almost, you don't even need to hire anybody. It's very intuitive, almost just like click and go type stuff. Have like a product or two on there and then just like sell that product and then just reinvest the profits into more of the product, right? So it's like you make 30 shirts, you sell those 30 shirts, and then you take that money and then reinvest in more shirts, right? And then you kind of slowly grow. Like you can find different events to go to and maybe set up a table to try to get like in-person sales. It's just really about just kind of taking it one day at a time. Right. And then just trial and error. Like you put out a product, whatever that product is for you. Like maybe you're selling hair care products, right? Like, you go to a couple salons or something, see if you can sell your stuff there, or you start giving it away, right? So that way people can try it out and see if they even like it. Start getting feedback from the market. So I don't know if does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's a perfect answer. So basically, if you were starting something, it would be obviously your main focus, the simple things, the getting a brand together, so a name and a logo, and then you start to build an audience. That was kind of what it sounded like from the next. So even if you were, if it wasn't clothing, if you wanted a jiu-jitsu coffee company, you could start by first creating a name, creating a logo, creating an Instagram, educating people on why they should drink coffee before jiu-jitsu class and how much effect that specific amount of caffeine can have on you. And then things like, Josh McKinney says he drinks coffee before a jiu-jitsu class. And you can do something in that to build your audience. And then from there, you start selling coffee.
By George, you've got it.
All right, and that's
spot on.
That's perfect.
You're a smart guy.
I've sold a lot of coffee in my day. But yeah, man, I want to before we kind of get to the end of it, I'm sure we'll insert a commercial on this, but I think might as well talk about it in episode 2 to kind of finish. But we have a new I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show Imposed Will collaboration.
Dude, so stoked for this.
So excited. So we were kind of dropping some hints on the elastic band rash guard and how great it is. We've got them on the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show rash guards, Imposed Will rash guards. Went with what are the shorts? If you are hitting me with like the talking points of the shorts of Imposed Will, what are they?
Yeah, dude. So, all right. So we're going to drop the full kit, right? As they call it these days.
As the kids say.
Yeah. So the shorts, our shorts, we call them free flow shorts, or the shorts that we call them. They have it's like a 4-way performance stretch material. I don't know what fancy words I put on the website. But dude, they've got the interior pocket, dude. I think it's one of the coolest designs that we've put out. The whole kit is sick, dude. So have you decided, are you going to do both colors, or which color? Are you just going to do the one color like you were thinking?
I don't know. Am I allowed to do both colors?
You do whatever you want, bro.
Well, yeah, I want to do both colors. I mean, the both colors. Bryce, both colors a better call?
We're going to do both options?
Yeah, go both colors.
Both colors? Okay. Yeah, I think both colors is the move.
Okay.
I think, so we're going to have the black and green because like I told you, I know that I have a little bit older of a fan base than myself. I don't have the young 18-year-old, punk kids training at 10th Planet that listen to the show as much. And so I figured that the black and green was pretty tame and people would really like that.
Yeah.
But then for myself and the other bright color wearers, we have a purple and gold set.
That purple and gold is sick.
It's pretty sick, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I'm pretty ready to. I think, as we said before this, I think we're gonna have the sale ready by the time this episode comes out.
Yeah, by the time this episode is out, it'll be up on the website. People can go check it out.
Man, that is exciting. Is custom shorts and rash guards and like collaborations with gyms and with podcasts and stuff, is that just a Josh McKinney exclusive thing that nobody in the world has access to? Or is that something that Imposed will be doing?
Yeah, so we've really hit a stride with like offering, custom gear for gyms. As you know, you're a gym owner. Mm-hmm. It's not something that most gym owners really like to dealing with having to design or get inventory or any of the apparel stuff. Nobody really likes to do that, I found. So yeah, man, we've been offering custom gear, rash guards, shorts, we had a few different things we can offer, but and just kind of doing pre-sales, like that's what we'll do with the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu stuff. We'll do a pre-sale, and yeah, man, it's solved a lot of issues for a lot of these gym owners. So if they did want to have custom gear, we can offer them that. And then with the pre-sales are nice because then you don't have to invest a whole bunch of money, right? And people can kind of see what they're getting. And again, it's kind of one of those things where you got to trust that the quality of the product is good. So we are building the reputation where we make good stuff. So it's selling. But yeah, this is something that we're offering, and very stoked about this I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu drop, dude.
Me too, man.
It's going to be so. I think this is this is hands down my favorite design that we've ever done.
It was, obviously I'm biased. It has my name on it and my podcast name on it and all that. But definitely my favorite rash guard and shorts that I've ever seen.
Yeah. Of course.
I just thought too, and I really think that anybody who follows like my jiu-jitsu team journey and my jiu-jitsu journey or the podcast, I really felt like there's a little something that that each person would notice. Like my students were really, really pumped about the hand signal on the repetitive hand signal on the rash guard.
On there?
Yeah, they were pretty excited about that. And then like I know other people have messaged me so many times about, hey, I would love, your podcast is fun and it has a funny name. I wish I could rep it somehow. Yeah. And this will be the first apparel that we ever do. Yeah,
it really works out, right? Because as a brand, I wanted to do something. I really liked skateboarding as a kid. I was like a chubby kid. I wasn't good. I used to break skateboards. I wasn't any good at it. But I used to love getting like the old like CCS magazine and like looking through all like the custom decks in there, and like every skater had like their own signature deck. So like I used to love that. So like that was kind of the inspiration. Like I want to do more of that with our athletes. And like, we decided to do this one for you first, right? Man. I think it's just such a cool thing to really be able to represent, like what our athlete is about and kind of, help, spread their brand a little bit too. So I think it's like a cool thing we're doing.
Yeah, man. And so if you are interested, if you're listening to the episode, you're interested in the fit or either one of them, be sure to click the link in the description. But if someone is a school owner or they have a brand of their own, if they were interested in that idea of doing some collaboration with Imposed Will, how would they be able to go about that?
Yeah. So just if you just wanted to, you could, probably the easiest way if you can just email us at info@imposedwill.com.
Okay.
Maybe in the headline, just put your gym in there and just put custom gear. And
all
then
right.
We can
so you don't process. Just throw it in the junk mail.
Yeah, we can take care of you.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, sweet. Well, that will be simple. What if somebody just wanted to follow Imposed Will and the journey that Imposed Will is on?
Yeah, so you can. We're probably most active on just Instagram and Facebook, just at Imposed Will. You could also go online to our website at imposedwill.com. You could join our mailing list. We're slowly building that, so I'm not You won't be bombarded with emails. I'm not like, you probably won't get any at the moment. So I'm a little slow on building that. But yeah, that's a good way just to kind of stay up to date with things that are coming out and what's new. And anytime we have a drop like this, you'll be the first to know.
Awesome. What about if anyone wanted to follow you and what you do?
Yeah. If you wanted to follow me, I'm probably more active on, I would say, like the business page now. But
I usually talk to you on the business page.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, I'm definitely most active on the business page. Like, I'm not lying when I say all of my energy goes into that now. So, you can follow me at Adam Meredith _ on Instagram. That's pretty much it.
All right.
Yeah.
And Adam, anything you want to say to finish?
Dude, thank you for having me. This was so fun. Again, It's been like 5 months since I podcasted. I feel like I probably rambled a lot, lost my train of thought a couple of times, but hopefully people got some value out of it.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
This was such a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm sure that sometime in the future I will have you on again. We'll
be
have
honored.
some other stuff to talk about, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you again.
Yeah, I really appreciate you being on, bud.
My man.
And that is the episode. Thank you guys for checking this one out. I hope you guys liked it. I'm still learning with doing very conversational episodes. It was a little hard for me to, a lot of times as the podcaster, I always think of it like you are just in a home run derby and you're just throwing pitches out, and once you find the pitch that this guy hits and he likes, you just try to throw that pitch over and over and over and just let him keep hitting home runs. And I really think that's how I've always done it with the podcast. And I tried to do this organically, and I think we did a good job. I know Adam dropped some really good knowledge, had some really good information for us. But I just think that a lot of it from me, it was a little less polished than usual. Maybe I'm just being self-conscious, but I just feel like, trying to transition from interview style to conversation style, I think is going to be a little bit hard. It might be gi to no gi or something like that. And so all I'm asking is that you guys bear with me as we explore this new studio. We learn our equipment. We learn how to do conversational episodes like this even better. And of course, we'll have Adam learning with us. He'll be on the show again soon, I'm sure. I like having more local people now that we are doing in-person interviews, and so that's going to mean probably bringing back a lot of the same people. And that means if you guys enjoy one of these episodes, be sure to let me know. Josh at simplifyingjujitsu.com, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can drop a comment. Sometimes Spotify is pretty random. Sometimes you can, for some reason, like reply if you like the episode. I don't feel like it's always an option. Who knows? It's probably something that I'm doing. But anyway, you can drop a note on Spotify sometimes, but best way to do it is Josh at simplifyingjujitsu.com and send me an email. I love to get to conversate with people that listen to the show and people that train jiu-jitsu all over the world. That's always something really exciting for me. But anyway, don't forget to pick up your no-gi set, your rash guard short combo. I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show, gold and purple, purple and gold, and we have the black and green, green and black. So much good stuff, so exciting. We have the dog pound, maybe known as the Too Sweet, the wolf pack hand signal all over on it. We have the Josh McKinney signature on it. Full disclosure, that's not my full signature, or that's not my real signature. If I gave you guys my signature on it, it would look like I was holding a crayon in my fist and trying to draw a mixture of cursive and what do you call that? What are non-cursive letters called? Letters? Yeah, let's just call them letters. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it just wouldn't look good. Not a writing, drawing, anything like that. Not my strong suit. A little bit too brute for it, I think. Anyway, that's off topic. You guys absolutely need to go to impostwell.com. I'll make sure to link in the description where you can get in on the pre-sale for the no-gi set. Remember, this is only going on for 2 weeks, and I think it started yesterday. So that means that you guys only have 13 days left to get in on this no-gi set. Sorry, I'm not a great drawer or a subtractor either. So not a lot of strong suits for me, but having cool guests on my podcast, one of my strong suits. And I just wanted to thank Adam Meredith one more time for being on the show, for everything he did with this no-gi collaboration. This is something I've just been so excited about for months. Really haven't been able to tell you guys about, but I'm so excited to share it with you now. Remember, this set is limited time. We're only doing a 2-week run of this. And once it's done, it's done. And so if you guys want the first ever piece of clothing that says I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show on it, and you just want to look fresh to death on the mats, representing Imposed Will, representing the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show, spreading the designated winner gospel all over the country, be sure to get that no-gi set. And that's what I started the hour with. I guess that's what I'm finishing the hour with. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode. I have the episode that gets me canceled coming out next week with my my coach Kyle and another one of my coaches, Junior. And so that'll probably be the last episode of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu Show. This Thursday, I have a really fun episode. It's actually a secret. I can't tell you guys. I know it's 2 days. I should probably tell you about it, but it's a secret. I can't tell you what we're doing, but it's going to be fun. You guys are really going to like it. It's going to be a little bit different of a perspective than we've been doing on the show for a while. And so tune in this Thursday. See you guys then. I hope today's episode helps you guys. I hope it helps you guys not suck at jiu-jitsu anymore. Wait, no, that's not how I say it. I hope that today's episode helps you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys.